Hello and welcome to the Extremis Publishing podcast. I'm Tom Christie, and it's a great pleasure to be broadcasting to you today from the Forth Valley Sensory Centre in the glorious town of Falkirk. Now, sensory loss is a really important subject. It's something that can affect anyone at any age, at any time. And as a result, I think it's really important that we all have a sense of mutual respect, a sense of inclusivity, and also a sense of accessibility in terms of making sure that everyone is treated the same with equality, understanding and respect. So to talk about the work of the Forth Valley Sensory Centre, I'm really pleased to be joined today by three representatives. Laura Cluxton, who is the Centre's Sight Loss Ambassador, Lauren Gilmour, who is the Centre's Deaf Awareness Advisor, and also Rowan Ferguson, who is the Centre's Customer Service and Community Fundraising Assistant. So it's really good to be here today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So if I could start with you, Laura, please. What can you tell us about the work that you do with the Centre?
Because I'm the Sight Loss Ambassador, obviously I'm blind, and I have been since 2005. And before that, I've spent my whole life being partially sighted. And I started coming to the centre as a volunteer. I started coming to the centre as a centre user back in about 2010. I'd been losing my sight quite badly, and I was losing my independence and stuff. And I'd been told about the centre, so I started coming along and joining in groups and stuff, and met a lot of other people who are blind and partially sighted as well, which before that I didn't know anybody, so it was nice to feel that I wasn't on my own. There was others in a similar situation, and I managed to, I decided I wanted to go and get my first guide dog because I saw people with guide dogs and I thought that looks great and will make me more independent. So I did that and I got her, and it kind of opened a lot of doors for me and made me become more independent. So I was gaining more confidence, and I became a volunteer doing different roles at the centre and also roles in guide dogs as well. And then I became a board member, and I think it was in 2022 I started my job here as a sight loss ambassador. So my role is to go out to different communities to speak to people about sight loss and about the centre, because lots of people don't know what we are here. They know the building, they see it's right on the roundabout, but nobody ever knows what goes on. And I'm also trying to get more people from out with Falkirk involved, so we're trying to do some outreach work to Stirling and Cluxton, which we've been quite successful in actually, and we've got some groups set up out there now, but we're always looking for more people. So that's just some of the things that I do here.
Well, thanks very much. And Lauren, I mean, you deal with a completely different aspect of sensory loss, don't you?
Yes, so I'm the Deaf Awareness Advisor, so I deal with people who are deaf or have hearing loss. I started here in December, so I'm not as long serving as Laura quite yet, but so we've got quite a lot of centre users who are deaf. Falkirk Deaf Club come here and use the centre, but my job is, much like Laura described, is I go out and talk about my personal experience as a mum to a deaf son. So 90% of deaf children are born to hearing parents who have no access to sign language, and only 2% of deaf children will ever get access to sign language at home or at school. So in my talks I like to go out and get all this awareness out there. We're wanting people from Clackmanshire and Stirling and in rural areas round about Forth Valley to know the centre exists and come and join in. Because much like Laura said, I didn't know somewhere like this existed when my son was young. It can be so isolating, feeling like you're the only person that can't fully communicate with their kid, and little things like not knowing what their favourite colour is. So it's good to get out and about that these can come here. And there's a community, so yeah.
And Rowan, could you tell us a little bit about the operational side of things and also the fundraising aspects, and in particular how people can donate?
Yeah, definitely. So these two lovely ladies are definitely more front facing than myself. I do a lot more behind the scenes work. So apart from when I'm doing my customer engagement assistant duties in the front desk, where I meet and greet people and run things behind the scenes, I do community fundraising and fundraising applications and things with the assistance of my lovely operations manager Sandy and our CEO Jackie. So I have the opportunity to do quite a lot of fun things with my fundraising. So we do big events throughout the year where people are invited to come and see the centre, see what we do, help raise some funds and have some fun. I do raffles and different competitions and things like that. So anybody that comes into the centre can donate to a good cause, and it's not just come out of their pockets, they get a chance to take part in something as well. I deal with a lot of things like in-kind funding. So at the moment, we're very understanding that due to the cost of living crisis, cash donations have went down. I'm sure they've went down in charities all across the UK at the moment. So we work more on trying to let people know that they can donate goods instead of cash. So you can hand in prizes for our tombola, or you can donate things, literally anything that you're not using that you know we use, and that all goes towards my fundraising targets and things like that, and you're giving back to the community without having to spend the money that most people at the moment unfortunately don't have. Obviously we run things to get cash donations as well. Earlier this year we took part in the 5k a day in May. So as a centre, I think it was about 17 people between staff members, board members and centre users and volunteers. 3 of us.
Yeah,
We
my
were all in
legs
it.
loved it.
Yeah, we all did it, yeah.
So we did different initiatives like that, and we raised, I think it was a fair few thousand. You're going back now, I've done a few events since then, but no, anything and everything we do to try and raise the funds.
Well, that's great. Well, here's a question for all 3 of you. I think you've explained some of the really important work that the centre does right throughout the Forth Valley area. But what do you think are the major challenges that are facing public perception of sensory loss in the present time? And also, what do you think are the opportunities that are coming up in the future? Because I think when I say that of things like AI-assisted British Sign Language interpretation, and also things like closed caption subtitles, which are now being generated automatically by AI, which are making things so much more accessible in ways that weren't possible previously, and that's transforming things in terms of accessibility. I mean, do you think that's something that's going to continue, and what kind of forms do you think that might take?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like for example, there's a pair of glasses that have been brought out by Ray-Ban, which are called Ray-Ban Meta glasses, and they work with Bluetooth to your phone, and it uses AI, but they're not designed for people with visual impairment, but people with visual impairment have absolutely jumped on board, and they're probably more useful to us than they are to people who are fully sighted. So, and they're actually affordable because they're created for mainstream, if I can call it that, because normally things designed for people with visual impairment are like thousands of pounds and really unaffordable to most people. So to get something like that is brilliant, and like you say, as technology develops, it'll just become more normalised, because I know that Oakley are about to make exactly the same kind of glasses as well, so it's really good.
Yeah, by ways of the AI-generated interpretation and captions, there's definitely positives there. And my son himself says that he loves that captions and subtitles are becoming more accessible. But with BSL, British Sign Language users, it can be difficult if you come from a generationally deaf family and British Sign Language is your first language, because it's so different for English. You wouldn't follow the English structure in reading captions. And then when it comes to the AI generated signs, just now we're still at the stage where AI is at creating the correct facial expressions. Things like this are all up for debate in the deaf community, because just like spoken language, we have regional sign language. So in Edinburgh and Glasgow, you've even got differences in their signs there. So there's a lot cultural aspects like linked with the sociological studies that go into thought to play with the deaf communities, but it doesn't dispute that technology is coming on leaps and bounds and doing amazing things. Yeah.
I have to say, I just think it's not equipment or software related, but I do think awareness like awareness of sensory loss in general has improved even since I've started working in this kind of area. Because one thing I've always thought since I started working here was I remember you come in here and people go, oh, this is how you can tell this person's blind, or this is how you can tell this person's deaf or deaf-blind, or however it is. And I've always wondered, in school, you get people that come in to talk to folk in school and teach you all about how to cross the road or how to do things with X, Y and Z, but never once when I was in school the whole time through primary school or secondary school did anybody ever come in to tell me what was a deaf person, what was like a blind person, how you could help them, these kind of things, to make everybody more included in society.
Yeah, I think as a person like who is blind, I still encounter a lot of things like I've got my guide dog, and when she's got her harness on, she's got a wee sign in it that says, "I'm a working guide dog, please do not distract me."
Mm-hmm.
But that sign is read by the people, like, oh, what's that say? Oh, and they'll read it out and ask, oh, I'll just pet it anyway. You know what I mean? So the awareness, it's like, oh, cute dog, and they want to pet it, but people don't understand the job that the dog is doing. So, you know, there is always going to be something there. And on the other hand, if you're using a cane, I think people are less likely to help someone who's using a cane just because they've not got a cute dog. And yes, people are afraid really of not doing the right thing or offending someone or something like that, and that's why we're trying to raise the awareness to say it's okay, we're just regular people and you can speak to us, you know, and ask us if we need help. That's all we really want.
Yeah, and that goes the same for deaf people or anybody with hearing loss. And ways of communicating, it's always about asking the person how they would like to communicate. Obviously somebody that's deaf knows they're deaf, they live deaf every day in a hearing world, and British Sign Language probably, when they're out and about, they're not expecting everybody to know that, which would be amazing if the full world was bilingual and multicultural and all this stuff, but we're not. So you just ask the person how they would like to communicate, and lip reading, writing down, and so many aspects. It's so important, but that's everybody's individual, whether you're deaf or got sight loss. Yep, still just ask.
Well, that's interesting, because that leads me on to my next question, really, which is, you know, people who are out there listening and they're seeing the value of all the things that you're saying here, how can they get involved, you know, not just in the work of the centre, but in terms of, you know, propagating positive messaging about sensory loss and including people, you know, making sure that everybody is being properly included in what's going on?
Yeah, so workplaces, I would encourage organisations in general, sensory awareness training, definitely, that's it, just before any language class or anything like that. If you get basic awareness training, then you're 10 steps in front of most people. So awareness and...
And we do sensory awareness training here for businesses, and our Hannah, she's our volunteer coordinator, also does the sensory awareness training. But we also do it, it's a new thing, another member of staff, Melissa, she's the family worker, she's designed this really great workshops for kids. So we go to primary schools and secondary schools and do sensory awareness training for kids, and it's been really, really popular, and all the feedback from all the schools is 100% positive, and the kids have been super engaged. So it's just teaching kids about deafness, blindness, how to help. You've been doing a wee bit, Lauren has been doing a wee bit of showing them the alphabet, haven't you?
Yeah, finger spelling and stuff like that, yep.
And I've been showing them different canes and talking to them about guide dogs, and we do a wee quiz, and there's like wee games involved, so it's been fun.
Yeah.
No, I'd say sensory awareness is key, and we're giving you lots of examples of things we do, but I'd like to think that there's more organisations than just us that people could tap into wherever you are, that may be able to offer you some support with.
Yeah, definitely. Guide
getting
dogs,
your sensory awareness a bit more.
Guide dogs do like a free online sensory awareness.
Because we try, and what we do is, as the ladies have said, we've got one for the schools, which is obviously we can do it in primary school and secondary school, so you just target it more at the age group. we've got full-on professional sensory awareness training where we can go to your business and help make you more accessible to people. And then the three of us go and do talks, so we go and visit community groups and guilds and different things like that. And for all we're always trying to plug the centres, there's always a lot of it that's to do with tips and tricks to help blind people and deaf people if you come across them. How can you make life easier for both of you?
Yeah, and also you probably think, because I'll remember as soon as my son got his hearing aids, and he was 8 weeks old when my son got his diagnosis. I don't like to say that's too medical, but that's what the word is. So, and then all of a sudden I was in Tesco and I was realising that the lady serving me had hearing aids on, and I was just seeing a wee baby and it's pushchair one on, and people report them up everywhere with aids, and that's just people that were wearing aids. So there's people with hearing loss that don't, and just like that, the people with sight loss are everywhere. So once you open your eyes, pardon the pun, you actually notice that the world is mixed with people with all different abilities and everywhere. So yeah, internal awareness as well. Yeah, and sometimes you've got hearing loss yourself. My granda asked Lucas, my son, the other day, what's it like being deaf? And I felt like saying to my granda, I don't know, granda, you tell me, because he definitely needs a hearing test.
Okay, now here's a question. I mean, we've talked a little bit about British Sign Language, and I would like to ask, how people can get more involved in that, how they can learn, whether it's key phrases or perhaps in terms of learning more fully what's involved in the process. But also, as somebody who writes a lot about film and television, something that often isn't necessarily discussed as much as it should be is audio description, and how that can really open a film up to people. In particular, if there's a lot going on in a film, and it can be quite difficult to get that description into a specific amount of time. How would people go about learning those skills?
So if you were wanting to learn it to go on and work in it, you go through the SQA standard processes, and it is a very expensive thing. We have Voices Off classes in this centre. There is BSL Zone, which is sort of like BBC's On Demand sort of version, which everything on that is interpreted. So watching programmes goes all the way from history documentaries to game shows. You can get up on your language skills there. But taking classes, there's like Google for your nearest classes. I know there's some in Lanarkshire. Like I said, we've got Voices Off in Stirling, one that goes on in the actual centre. Forth Valley College, I've got a free online course. Yeah, there's many avenues if you get in your search engine, but if you're going all the way with it, it's very expensive.
In terms of the audio description, I love it. Like, I do not watch anything at all on TV or film if it's not audio described, because you miss so much. There's parts in a film, loads of parts you start to realise when you can't see anymore, and they're doing things, and there's loads of detail happening, and you're just absolutely missing it. Like, I've obviously realised throughout my whole life there's been loads of films like that I've missed parts. And when there's no speech happening, that's when the audio description kicks in, and it'll just tell you what the people are doing, what they're maybe wearing, what their facial expression looks like. It's amazing, I love it. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how you go about doing it because I don't know, but I think people obviously write it, because at the end of the film it'll tell you audio description was provided by like a company type thing, but it's fantastic. So.
That's great. I mean, because another thing I was going to ask actually was about audiobooks and spoken word features more generally, because that's something that certainly we've branched out into in the last couple of years, not just in terms of podcasts, but in terms of both adapted and unabridged audiobooks. How can people get more involved with recording full-length audiobooks? The reason I say that is I know that there were people like Terence Hardiman, the actor who passed away recently, who in his time recorded hundreds and hundreds of audiobooks because he felt so passionately about making sure that all texts were accessible to everybody. How could people go about volunteering to do something like that?
Well, the RNIB have a library of audiobooks, and I can't remember exactly how much it costs. I say it's something like £3,000 to make an audiobook. So a lot of people do fundraise, like individuals and companies and things, to put books into audio, because we don't get access, because our IB library is free, but you're only covering, I don't know, 20% of the books in the world, so it is limited. But obviously if anybody wanted to fundraise for a book, then they're able to do that. You do have access to Audible, but obviously that you have to pay for that service. So everybody does, it's, whether you're blind or not. But obviously accessing books from the libraries is different. But we have a book group here actually, so it's been running for a long time, 10 years maybe more, and everybody comes along, they get the book on audio, so it's usually on a memory stick. You listen to the book and everybody comes back a month later and reviews it, and they do a wide range of books, trying to cater for everybody within the group, which doesn't always happen. I'm sure I used to be in it, but I don't have time at the moment. But yeah, there's always someone that loves it and someone who hates it. So it opens up doors to new books that you would never think of reading though.
Well, that's not dissimilar in if you were translating from English into BSL. So if I was to take a book and interpret it into British Sign Language, there's a level of translation, so like metaphors, and if I'd say, oh, that's ringing a bell, that doesn't translate well into BSL. So then you've got people's favourite interpreters. Oh, I don't like that interpreter, I don't like the way they translate, or I do like the way they translate. For me, for example, you wouldn't put me in the politics stage. I'd maybe be better in theatre with my mad face sort of expressions. So there's an interpreter that's good at every story.
Yeah. I'm really interested to ask actually, because we've talked a little bit about the limitations of AI interpretation of BSL and how that's obviously still a work in progress. But what's your opinion of AI audiobooks, where they've used the kind of natural speech algorithm to read whole texts? And usually it can be generated fairly quickly, but I mean, do you find that in terms of things like emphasis and those kind of aspects, these sort of rhetorical aspects, that they fall down, or are they generally okay?
I haven't actually listened to an audiobook like that, but my computer that I use at work is a computerised voice, and yeah, it's pretty boring when you're reading a big document. So no, I would absolutely say a real person actor is always going to be far better at reading a book. They put in the voices for the different characters, and it's just far better. Because like obviously you can listen to your Kindle, you can switch on the voice, but again it's just the computerised voice, and it's not for me anyway.
Yeah, remember we were sitting together, Laura, and my computer had updated, and my voice has changed to a person speaking, and you were like, oh, that sounds much better, how did you do that? I was like, oh, it done it itself, I didn't do that. Yeah. So I can swap you when you say.
So what sort of events are coming up in the next few months, and how can people get involved?
So we've just had our big summer event. That was a good hit. Everybody had lots and lots of fun between us and our massive dinosaur we have situated in the sensory garden at the moment. Upcoming, we always do a Halloween party for adults with additional needs. So we open up the centre to people and their carers and their parents and whoever else, friends, family, and anybody that wants to come along, and we run different competitions. We always have a wee fancy dress competition, do different things like that. So that's a wee fundraiser we have, although that's more to support the community, that one. And then we always have a really big event at Christmas. So it's been running pretty much since the centre opened. I've been organising it for about 5 years now. We have a winter fair. So every year that's the last Friday in November, and it takes a good couple of months organising on my part, and with the help of lots and lots of people in the centre, from groups and volunteers and staff, and everybody pitches in. So we invite along lots of local businesses to sell crafty things and different nice stuff for folk to get their Christmas shopping. Mostly for us, it started. For some really organised people, it's finished. We always do things like make homemade soup and crusty bread and things like that, and you've got hot chocolate stations and different things. We did used to have Santa, which Laura mentioned a wee bit earlier on, but because unfortunately it used to be at the weekend and now it's during the week, so we don't have enough wains to merit a Santa. Although if there's one of the adults that are going to missed out and seeing Santa, please do feel free to let us know.
We can phone him and get him back.
Aye. So no, we do loads of things like that, and it's always very community focused as well as fundraising focused, and we try and have as much fun as we can. It should be fun for staff and attendees.
And we usually have the sensory singers there
Yes,
as well.
we've got a choir, so Laura is part of our sensory singers choir, along with lots of other people.
Yeah. About 20, 25 or something
20,
like that.
25.
Yeah.
But they'll, at Christmas time, they really help me with the fundraising because they go out and do lots of different performances, and they do a couple at the hospital when you go around Asda and Tesco and things like that.
Yeah.
We get some lovely volunteers to go and shake buckets.
Yeah.
And then they come and do their big performance at the Winter Fair.
But that group is open to both blind and partially sighted people
Mhm.
and people who are deaf and hard of hearing. When it was first set up, there was always like a vision that we would get some BSL speakers along and they could sign the words to the song, but that never ever took off. But we do have people there with hearing aids and stuff like that, along with some blind and partially sighted people.
At Christmas we are sometimes lucky enough to partner our choir up with the Windsor Park
Oh, that's right, yes.
Choir, which is a school for deaf children. So we normally do a few of your jingle bell type songs in all the primary school. Young people come and they do BSL and sing along, which is always
It's
very
so cute.
heartwarming moment at
Yeah,
Christmas.
yeah, it's everybody's greeting.
When I got the video sent to my son doing his caroling in BSL, there he was standing doing all his facial expressions. He was so into it, looking angelic as ever, as if he should have been at the top of the tree. Well, they should see him in the house.
Well, for those who are listening at home and they found out a little bit about the really vital work that the centre does, how can they find out more about it? Could you tell us a little bit about your website and your social media channels, and just as importantly, how people can go about making a donation?
Mm-hmm. So we've got a website, which is just www.forthvalleysensorycentre.org. We keep that as up to date as we can, although I will admit we keep more things on our social media because we've normally got more footfall and it's a bit more modern. It's easier to navigate than our website at the moment. But Facebook is normally our main area for putting out different things. We do our What's On guide every week. We've got updates about groups and classes. We let people know about who's been out and about doing what, and different community groups that we support or that support us, and initiatives and things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Instagram, we've got TikTok, which we break out our BSL on occasionally. X, which obviously, as everybody knows, has went downhill slightly in the last wee while. To donate, we are a big fan of GoFundMe. They're very nice to us. You can donate through our website as well. And like I say, we've always got a fundraiser or something going on, so that'll normally be pinned at the top of our Facebook page. Or if you're in the area, feel free to pop in and see what we do. We always welcome new faces and new people, and we've got a cafe and things that are open to the public, so anybody can pop in whenever they like. Even buying yourself a cup of cake and a bit of coffee is technically donating to charity.
Yeah.
Myself and Lauren, we've got our own Facebook groups as well, so mine's is called Sight Loss Ambassadors Chatter. So I tend to post things obviously relating to sight loss, whether it might be a theatre show in the area that's got audio description, or maybe a survey that is for guide dogs or RNIB or something that they're looking for people with sight loss to fill in, or just general information. And you've got your one as well.
Yep, I've got my one which is called Sense of Deaf Awareness, and that's a Facebook and an Instagram. And like Laura said, I share whatever the centre's been doing as well, or things related to deafness and hearing loss. And sometimes a wee video with me signing for our deaf community centre users might pop up with them delivering some information that way. I think that's all my Instagrams and things.
Well, thank you so much, Laura, Lauren and Rowan, for having taken the time today to join us and to tell us a little bit about the work that the centre does. Big thanks also to Operations Manager Sandy Gilmour for having made this podcast possible. I really hope that you at home have enjoyed hearing about the work of the centre, and that you want to find out more in the weeks and months ahead. So thank you very much everyone for having taken part today, and for everyone at home who's listening, thanks again for having tuned in, and I hope that you'll join us again soon.